top assassin with a bounty of 7.6 billion. He turned out to be an old man with white hair. Even the world's top mercenary team. They changed their expression when facing this old man. He even entered the former Soviet Union's territory alone. He was able to come out unscathed. He is such a well-known figure. The leader of the Glory disciples, Brian, actually has a devoted and influential little fanboy. That would be the world's greatest military entrepreneur, Russell, the president of the U Group. Only because more than 40 years ago, Russell was kidnapped by the military. Russell's father Roger was extremely anxious. Russell endured torture. Assassins in the Glory Group are divided into 4 levels. D-level assassins can only take on tasks targeting ordinary people. C-level assassins have to deal with the mafia or other armed organizations. B-level assassins compete with other assassin organizations. A-level assassins need to participate in national-level assassination missions. But above that, the church has bestowed 12 crucifix necklaces. That is the emblematic item that only the 12 disciples nurtured by the Glory Group can possess. Each of them, taken individually, can contend against an entire army. However, in this pyramid structured by ranks, only one person has reached the pinnacle. That person is Brian, the head of the disciples. With a history of nearly 100 years, only he can sit in this position. Before each mission, they all have to confess at the Glory Church. Then they proceed based on their ranks. They each receive their missions from the hands of the priests. Caleb and Lucas have received their first mission within the group. They are showing exceptional excitement. But when they saw the words, they didn't understand what it meant. The priest said that the church does not directly assign tasks to newcomers. Instead, they will be given a cup of delicious holy blood as a reward for joining the organization. What is surprising is that the priest actually poured the holy blood on Caleb's head and claimed, "What kind of trash can be appreciated by the higher-ups? I really don't understand what they are thinking." Caleb directly tore the task card into pieces. He, full of youthful vigor, couldn't tolerate such insults. In an instant, the two of them began to limber up, ready for battle at any moment. The 2 men behind the priest were not to be outdone. They were determined to teach those young upstarts a lesson. They started to launch their attacks. Natalie's eyes widened in astonishment. They faced Dylan again, but this time their strength had become even more formidable. However, a few drops of blood dripped down Caleb's face. The man with the scarred face smiled. "Don't goof around. Assassins can't win just by using brute force. Is this all your ability?" Caleb is worried about his brother. Suddenly, the two were beaten again. Natalie wants to step forward to intervene. She was stopped by another person. As a former follower of Octopus Man, you lack unique abilities and corresponding skills to become a D-level assassin. You should be grateful to God. Such shameless slut. Brian then walked over. "That's about enough," he said. "Don't go too far, senior." Facing such a challenge, Brian hesitated. Because he recalled Melissa's advice. Never stick out too much. The rookie killer Jim defeated senior killers above sea level. This simply doesn't make sense. With your skills and techniques, Glory Group will find it's only a matter of time. And not only will our plan be disrupted, everyone will be implicated, including those children. Although Brian is eager to teach them a lesson now. But for now, he still needs to disguise himself as a killer at D-level. How dare you behave so arrogantly in front of your seniors? Is it useful to be handsome, looking like a dancer? Are you trying to show off in front of girls? Suddenly, a remark from Brian made him slightly stunned. "Hit me however you like, but please let me take them to the hospital first. If we don't go quickly, the consequences will be unimaginable. I will never forget the teachings of my predecessors. So please let me take them to the hospital." Seeing this situation, the newcomer decided to stop here. "But you must hand over the assassin's credentials right now. Wait until you have the ability. Then come back and get it from me." The four could finally come out of the church. Caleb felt guilty. He didn't know how to face his teammates. How do we tell the teacher? All four of us lost our assassin licenses. I'm sorry, Natalie Jim. It's all my fault for being too impulsive. I'm not fit to be the team leader. Brian helped Caleb put on his hat. Let's go, Captain. It's time to go home. I've been busy all day, and I'm hungry. Captain, let's have dinner. On the way back, Natalie was feeling a mix of emotions. She asked Brian how she could truly become stronger. They took away the assassin license that was hard-earned. In this society, as long as you are weak, you will be deprived of everything you have. I want to become stronger. Brian also does not know how to answer her, because he has also been deprived of the most important thing. Only to see Natalie grabbing his clothes tightly. She leaned against his back. Everything is communicated without words. The two of them sat on the motorcycle and sped away. Night fell. The two of them had fun outside, then returned to the Glory Church. In the moonlight, a dark silhouette was revealed. Brian clasped his hands together in prayer towards God, making a sincere confession. Is it really necessary to go to such extremes during the day? The hierarchical system that you advocate. It seems I need to show you what an S-level disciple is like that you will never see in your lifetime. The B-level killer scarred man almost laughed his teeth off. He has been a professional killer for 14 years. I have never even seen a disciple, let alone witness the battle of an S-level disciple. However, when he looked to the side, he broke out in a cold sweat. As one of the top-ranking members in the church, Zachary's face was unexpectedly overcast at the moment. He looked at this completely unknown D-level high school student. There were no cover or weapons, just holding a string of rosary beads. His whole body was full of flaws. However, when facing his gaze, an endless killing intent was revealed. Scarred man mocked Zachary. Are you scared silly by this little ghost? It was only after Zachary realized that he came to understand that it was just a little ghost with a scary look in its eyes. He took out a Bible from behind and claimed that the church had a rule. Anyone who dared to disrespect their elders would face consequences. The elders have the authority to take you out immediately. Zachary believes that as long as he throws the book away, he will definitely use his hands to defend. In that case, he will inevitably expose the weakness under his ribs, then launch an attack. While he is injured, he instinctively covers his stomach. However, in reality, his true target is not the ribs. Instead, it is because when he covers his stomach, he bends over, making it possible to harm his eyes. But when he rushes forward, his eyes involuntarily start to flicker. His own hands are already flying uncontrollably in the air. The thin thread wrapped around the young man's hands holding the sacred beads is extremely sharp, and at this moment, it is already stained with his own blood. Just saw Brian swing his arms and tear his body into pieces. Zachary's pupils suddenly dilated. After he recovered, he immediately covered his neck and breathed heavily. The goosebumps on his body went from the soles of his feet to the top of his head. Scarred man had no idea what was going on with him. Facing the fear of death, he was reluctant to release his neck. He was afraid that in the next second, his head would want to move out. Because just now in consciousness, I have fought with him thousands of times. No matter what method I use, no matter in what form, I still lose every time. Having experienced thousands of battles over several decades in my career, it is only this person who makes me feel this way. Even without actually taking action, I instinctively sense that I will lose. This kind of gaze and pressure are simply not on the same level. It seems like he could just flick his fingers a bit to kill us. It's as simple as crushing an ant. Brian could now feel the awe of the newcomer. He walked forward and just raised his hand slightly. Zachary was already scared out of his wits, crying and yelling for his parents. He frantically begged for mercy, hoping to spare himself. However, Brian just lightly patted his face. Senior, being able to sense the ability to kill is a basic skill for an assassin. In a sense, you are quite strong. You learned a valuable lesson today. Brian swaggered out of the church. At this moment, Melissa approached. She questioned Brian why he did such a thing. If trouble was stirred up, what would happen if people from the Glory group found out? But Brian said that it wouldn't happen, just think about it. Without throwing a single punch, a B-level assassin was humiliated by a 20-year-old newcomer at the D level. If that person were you, you wouldn't go around proclaiming it. Melissa pouted, feeling sulky. It's a pity that she was still worrying about him. What a show-off. Brian rode off on his motorcycle, heading into the distance. The next day, Caleb and Lucas were trembling with fear. They felt that Killer Coach would be furious. The assassin's license was just lost like that, just when they were at their wits' end. A loud noise startled them to the extreme. But the arrival was not the coach, but Zachary. They both don't know why they came to find themselves again. Could it be that they are here to fight again? I saw him handing over the assassin's license. The two brothers immediately smiled. This way, they won't be scolded by the teacher. But Zachary's attention was at the other side. That's Brian using the alias Jim. Zachary still can't forget it. The oppressive aura is unforgettable. Later, Caleb and Lucas, the brothers, thanked Zachary. Brian also smiled when he saw this scene. And Natalie's assassin license. It's also time to return it to her. But only Caleb in the class shows off to his classmates. Natalie is nowhere to be seen. At this moment, inside the training ground, Natalie is training frantically against the dummy. She recalls Caleb and Dylan's battle, and their confrontation with Zachary. Compared to them, I am simply pitifully weak. Even if I have obtained a killer's license, so what? Still, you're just as useless as trash. You can't do anything. You can only stare foolishly from the sidelines. If things continue like this, my younger brother Aaron will be in danger. At that moment, Brian appeared behind Natalie. He handed over his assassin license ID card. But Natalie didn't become happy. Instead, she felt she didn't deserve to have it at all. Is it because of your younger brother, as she was about to leave? You said you were very sad. But you chose to be an unsuitable killer. Is it all for your younger brother? Don't act like you know everything. If you are not clear about other people's situations, don't casually judge them. But Brian said, I do know some things about your younger brother. Tell me about him. It turns out, Natalie's younger brother is not her biological brother at all. He is just a child from the orphanage who is younger than her. Natalie has been antisocial since she was young. She doesn't want the existence of a family. On the day she was born, she was abandoned in a locker at the subway station. The person who was supposed to die there was rescued and taken to an orphanage. Although the living environment here is not very good, it is enough for them to survive. She doesn't want to have friends or family at all, because she never wants to be abandoned by someone again. She wants to die alone like this. She thinks being alone is quite nice. However, during a mission, she was shot and suffered severe bleeding during the emergency treatment process. There is not much plasma left here now. Should we send her to Glory Hospital? Is that necessary? We can just throw her away directly. Anyway, such children are everywhere, and our recent subsidies are not much. The teacher originally thought Natalie was confused, but she heard their conversation clearly. During that time, only Aaron came to see her once. She felt totally hopeless. If she had died from the beginning, it would have been a good ending. However, not long after, she woke up from the sickbed. The doctor said it was a miracle. But once she recovered from her injuries, she never saw Aaron again, and she didn't know where the other children from the orphanage had gone. Even when the teacher tried to dissuade her, she was stubborn and determined to find Aaron. Originally, during Natalie's coma, Aaron said he wanted to save his sister. Even if he died, it didn't matter. In the end, Natalie found him. When she saw him, He was lying weak on the hospital bed. He said, "My sister, you're not in pain anymore, right?" Natalie's heart shattered. She thought she had lost all of her family, and that no one would ever do anything for her again. But that idiot. He really thought of himself as a big sister. Misfortune always targets unfortunate souls. A bag of blood coagulant costs as much as 1.7 million. The child needs one bottle every 5 hours. He is like an endless abyss that cannot be filled. You must stop his treatment immediately. However, Natalie interrupted their conversation. She knelt in front of them, begging them to continue the treatment. They couldn't just give up on him like this. "I'm fine now, and can make money. It doesn't matter how much. She will pay off all the hospitalization and treatment expenses. Because of her, I have a reason to live for the first time. What if he's not my biological brother? What does it matter if we don't look alike? She must save her own brother. He is her only family in this world." Brian feels that he misunderstood her. She did not choose a career that is unsuitable for her. She felt that she had to do it. Just when Brian wanted to leave, Natalie stopped him. "You are the strongest I have ever seen, without a doubt. I beg you, help me become stronger. Only then can I take on missions to earn commissions. Save my younger brother." When an assassin not only needs to have a strong physique, also needs to learn excellent combat skills. Assassins must endure what ordinary people cannot endure, and be able to do what talented individuals cannot. The most important thing is, assassins must have a pair of excellent eyes. Dynamic vision. Brian thinks that Natalie is petite and weak in strength. She has a small courage and a very bad temper. These are the worst conditions for being an assassin. But she has the best eyes for an assassin. Because at the Octopus Man restaurant, you accurately observe the trajectory of the chopsticks. Also, the first time I faced off against Caleb and Lucas. You also noticed the detail of the fists not being clenched. My battle with Zachary is also clear as day to you. Even during my showdown with Dylan, you saw every move he made clearly. This is an innate talent that cannot be made up for by effort after birth. So, there is a weapon that can transform your weaknesses into strengths. You can defeat anyone with this weapon if you can master it accurately and skillfully. This will make you a truly excellent assassin." When Natalie saw the item in her hand, she was extremely surprised. Why would it be this? It is a rope dart made of pure silver, seeming lightweight, but actually a deadly weapon that kills invisibly. Natalie doesn't understand. "Can this really work just by itself?" Brian explained. The rope dart is one of the traditional martial arts. It wraps around the body with absolute flexibility. It can also be spun, making the rope dart even more destructive when released. Another huge advantage is that enemies have no idea when or from which direction it will fly at them. So do your best to catch it, control it, allow it to merge with you as one. The next day, Caleb and Lucas were proud of their weekly salary of 1 million. "But Natalie has yet to be seen," Caleb said. "Natalie is most likely doing a part-time job. She needs to clean up the traces left by the killers at the scene. Even if the scene is covered in excrement or organs, she is not afraid of getting dirty. Because this allows her to earn a considerable income, for the sake of her brother lying in the hospital bed." The two brothers simply couldn't understand. Clearly, they could make money without doing anything. Why work so hard? Just at that moment, Caleb received a text message from Natalie. She wants Caleb to give her a scarf. Not long after, they arrived at a freezer with a temperature of -20 degrees Celsius. The two strong young men were shivering from the cold. They didn't understand why she brought them to this place. Natalie said, "Of course, it's to train to become stronger." "How can we train in a place like this? We can't just break the ice with our bare hands." After Natalie showed them the rope dart, both of them laughed so hard that their mouths twisted. They claimed that it would be better to use a gun instead. Although this thing has a strong destructive power, it is just empty talk. Faced with guns, it seems even more powerless. But Natalie doesn't agree, because she vaguely remembers. Brian once said that a gun can achieve a one-shot kill. But the rope dart is different. If the user masters it skillfully, and if the user applies it properly, they can achieve a single hit and score. Natalie gently shook it. The two brothers were so shocked upon seeing this scene that their jaws dropped. They simply could not believe what was happening before their eyes. In the evening, the ice factory owner came to inquire if Natalie has finished training. He said he has seen many people come here for ice-breaking practice. He has also seen individuals who locked themselves in here for a few days. But he has never seen anyone like her, someone who smashed all the ice. Natalie thought the boss had come to collect training fees from her. But the boss waved his hand and said no need. Because 3 hours ago, a young man gave you a full 1 million. He also asked me to give this thing to you. He instructed that you will definitely find it useful scar cream. After Natalie came out of the ice factory, she called Brian. However, she didn't say thank you for a long time. But on the other end of the phone came congratulations. Congratulations, Natalie. You have obtained your true weapon. See you tomorrow. And what Brian was looking at was a detailed profile on all the assassins. So he already knew what Natalie had been searching for all along. That thing had been firmly in her own hands since a very, very long time ago. Seemingly an ordinary medical school. But inside, there are hidden secrets that cannot be revealed. Not only is there a department for assassinations disguised as medical accidents, there is also an action team that handles the disposal of abandoned bodies. The assassin came to this hospital. There are even dedicated VIP doctors for treatment. Most importantly, this hospital has someone who can hardly be called human. Apostle Daniel is a genius doctor favored by heaven. After he had a medical accident, he went into hiding. However, in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, 4 years ago, a police officer returned to the station after his shift to find a strange situation unfolding as he approached the door. I don't know who was hanging clothes at the police station gate. But as he walked closer, he was suddenly frightened to the core. This caused him to accidentally have a car accident. Indeed, the things at the police station entrance are not clothes. They are bodies. They are all members of the mafia in Rio de Janeiro. This incident also welcomed an investigation by the action group. You wouldn't believe it until you see it. Various firearms in an abandoned building have been twisted during the mafia fight. Even on a pillar. Dents with firearms inserted all over. The team leader of the action group realized the situation was grim. Suddenly, a pair of large hands reached out from the darkness. A team member was instantly dragged into the dark and eerie room. After hearing the sound of bones shattering, the entire building fell into an eerie silence. Not long after, a horrifying scream echoed from the room. Slowly visible under the moonlight, the ceiling was filled with bodies. A tall and powerful figure walked slowly towards them, holding a severed head in one hand. This person was emitting white smoke repeatedly. His appearance was like a grim reaper. He muttered with his bulging mouth, "Bring me another one!" The team leader was scared and at a loss. He picked up the submachine gun in his hand and wildly shot. I don't know if that man in the dark was hit. 6 who are above the law. The mafia boss who ruled Rio for 30 years. And those soldiers with excellent combat skills. All died within a day. Even Dylan, who was sent back to the glory group by Brian and others at the time. He also made a scene in the basement. But when Apostle Daniel walked towards him, he stood still in place, motionless. Even the knife he prided himself on fell to the ground. At this moment, Dylan was like a little puppy, seeming to even need someone's assistance to breathe. The next day, a child in the hospital was making a fuss and didn't want to get an injection. Caleb and Lucas even mocked her for being afraid of getting an injection. They were pleading with the nurse to go easy on her. The reason they all came here is that the new recruits must undergo a physical examination. They must undergo various examinations at Glory Hospital. But what worries people the most is The reason is simple. Glory Group is to put a collar on the assassins. Biological information, like fingerprints and DNA, remains unchanged with age. In case someone betrays the organization and flees, tracking can also be done using this information. If young Brian had his blood drawn, they will eventually discover his blood type, which matches old Brian's blood type. In other words, this will expose his true identity. The new young assassin, Jim, is actually Brian. When Brian returned to Melissa's place, she had a serious expression on her face. Brian looked very innocent. "That's right, I had blood drawn today." "You old man. I can't stand you. You even provoked a B-level assassin before. Now you dare to draw blood. Aren't you telling everyone that you are Brian?" Brian rubs his chin. It seems pretty interesting to him. "Don't you want to live anymore?" But Brian said that he doesn't not want to live. It's just that he thought of a way to completely escape from their pursuit. "That is, I am going to blow up the hospital." "You crazy old man. The older you get, the more unreliable you become. Returning to youth once makes you lawless. What do you think that place is?" Brian naturally knows in his heart, because his DNA should be in the hospital's data center. Destroying the database is not difficult, of course. The difficulty lies in the fact that Daniel is in that hospital. No matter how Melissa tries to persuade him, Brian remains unmoved. He came up with a way to get in, but this method requires Melissa's help. The next day, pedestrians walking on the street all looked at the LED screen. A greeting was displayed on the huge LED screen. Brian will go to see Dr. Daniel. This has led to an unprecedented level of alert at the hospital. Not only is each doctor equipped with a firearm, but security personnel are also frequently mobilized. Even professional Brazilian mercenaries have been called up. Most important of all, these people are particularly interested in the battles between S-level disciples. Being able to witness it once would make their lives worthwhile. But no one knows when Brian will arrive. His whereabouts have always been mysterious. But no one expected it. Brian was actually among them.